Hi everybody, I hope you're all well. Today's video is going to be a continuation of my curriculum planning series. So if you haven't been watching the series, I will have all the links to the prior videos below. But I think it started in April or May, and it's gone from, choosing our subjects, our calendar, what we're going to teach in each subject, my giant to-do list. Then I've highlighted a little bit. I have a video on my circle time plans and on history. And today's video is going to be on lesson lists and term grids. And I'm going to just show you what they are and how I put them together. And then there will be one final video in this series, and that will be more about my organization, going through my homeschool planner, and how I organize everything week by week. So let's start with, what are lesson lists and term grids? Well, these are things I've actually learned from other homeschoolers. So the idea for lesson lists came from Pam Barnhill, and I will have her information linked below. And she actually has a program, I think it's called Plan Your Year, so you can use that. I think she has some free components, but it's mostly to be purchased. And she walks through with you planning your homeschool year. But I used some of her free resources at one point and watched some of her videos. And she talks about lesson lists, and basically what they are is you take a subject. So I've used this for things like, let's say, geography. And I go through my resources and I plan out the order in which I want to teach the lessons, but I don't necessarily want to tie them to a particular date. So this works really well for subjects that are on a loop schedule, for example, so you just know what you want to do during the next lesson, but you don't necessarily know what date that lesson's going to be on, and it gives more flexibility. Now, term charts are something I've used, and I'm not sure if she calls them this, but Jen McIntosh, and she has a blog, Wildflowers and Marbles, and I will also link that below. And she has a couple YouTube videos, especially for her homeschool planners, so I will link those as well. And she uses term charts where she plans things out week by week in the term. And this is also similar to what you might see if you go on Amblesite online and look at their plan. You will have seen that if you watch some of my past videos, and I will link it below as well. So I like to be flexible, and I really do prefer having lesson lists, and then maybe in my term grid just putting the subjects that we're doing on that various week. But I have found this year that with specific subjects such as history, you'll notice in my history video I have specific dates for things, and for science and some of the art stuff, I've ended up tying it to a date just so I can plan out how I will get to everything, because there are so many lessons in this year, and I want to get to as much as we can. And now my disclaimer is, inevitably some of this will change because I need to be flexible, just how my home and homeschool works. But let me show you how I put together lesson lists, and I'm going to do this by putting one together here with you. I still haven't put together my character books that I want to do this year, and I'm still going through and researching, and there's going to be more that I purchase throughout the year. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the ones that we're going to use, that we are using or are going to use at the beginning of this year, and just put it together for you. So let's do that. Okay, I've got my glasses and my books. I read the first chapter, and I'm just going to look through, because I'm not sure that all of it is appropriate for my kids. So let me do that. I'm going to back up here, like in the middle of planning. As I'm looking through this, I am making a snap decision that I'm going to pause on this and come back to it when my kids are a little bit older. So I have, if you've been watching, you'll know I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old and a baby. And I feel like this might be better for 9, 10, ages like 9, 10. So I might wait until my kids are a little bit older to work through that. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop my anti-racist work within myself, or that I'm going to stop talking about this stuff with my kids. I think what I'm going to do is just start with trying to get more diverse picture books, and I might get more picture books that are about this topic, but I think this format and the way it's written is for slightly older kids. Preteens maybe would be like the perfect target age for. So I'm not going to include this in my lesson list right now, even though we did start with one chapter. I think I'm going to move on to these other resources, and I'm going to leave spaces for picture books that I haven't gotten yet. I'm going to start with Fred's Big Feelings, The Life and Legacy of Mr. Rogers. And I'm also going to pair this with feelings cards by Steph Hathaway, which I need to make a note to myself to print. And I'm actually going to give that 2 weeks. Steps and Stones, which is dealing with anger. And it's a good book, so I'm going to include that one there because my intention with the feelings and this book is that my son struggles, my 5-year-old struggles with his big feelings right now, which I think is totally age appropriate. But part of my job in parenting and school and teaching him is to help him figure out what to do when he has those emotions, that the emotions are okay. It's just how we react to them. So we're going to work a bit on that, and I'm hoping that these books will help with that. I'm going to leave a spot here for a diverse book, is what I'm calling it. We have subscribed to the Equal Opportunity Book Box, which I should do a short video for you guys on. I will work on that. They send you 3 picture books each month when you subscribe, and they're often by diverse authors and have diverse characters in them. So it's just helping me round out my library a little bit more, but I do have a list that I want to order. I just have to wait until the right moment, budgeting wise, to make an order for them. So I can pull one of the ones I get for the Equal Opportunity Book Box for that week, and then in future weeks I will hopefully have some that are on my list. Actually, I'm going to leave 2 weeks for that, I think. It might be that we do it more than once a week too. So again, that's the beauty of the lesson list, is it's flexible. Like, so you could do a couple lessons in the week, you could do a lesson every other week. It's just where it comes in. I think we're going to go into some of these kindness books. So we're going to do Have You Filled a Bucket today, which I have read with my kids before. I also want to set them up buckets. I think I have some supplies already downstairs for them, so I'll have to look into that. This is a series of it's short stories and it's Buddhist wisdom, and I do love this. I'm going to save this and do some more of my picture books first and then come back to that. So we also have Be Kind here. Which is a really simple but beautiful picture book. I will do a couple weeks of the kindness book. Stone Soup is a great one. So let's do Stone Soup. I always read this around Thanksgiving as well, and this may or may not end up being around Thanksgiving, but let's do Giving Thanks, Native American Good Morning Message. So I believe this is the English translation of a Iroquois, a Mohawk. It's a Mohawk from the Mohawk language. And it actually has that in the back. So I'm going to include this, the Thank You Dish, which is an Usborne book. We already do gratitude journals when it's part of our circle time. And I think I want to incorporate some thank you notes for people. So I think when we do this, maybe we will work on some thank you notes. I Am Love, a book of compassion. Let me put in a couple weeks of diverse books here, to be determined. And then we'll do I Am Love. Do a couple more weeks of the Kindness Treasury here. And I'm continuing here, just did a couple weeks of Kindness Treasury. I love Old Turtle. So let's put Old Turtle in. If you don't know this book, it's an older book. Old Turtle will be next. And then I'm just going to go through these ones. What does it mean to be present? And what do you do with a problem? So this gives me 22 different lessons. And of course, there's more in the Kindness Treasury, and I can always pull in other books. And we may not do this every week. So for right now, that's where I'm going to leave this lesson list. This gives me kind of a guide, so I don't really have to think about it going into the week. I can just say, oh, let's do this next one on the list, which is the purpose of the lesson list. So this is a really flexible one as well. Like, you wouldn't necessarily need to do this for the subject. We could just have a list of books and choose one, which is kind of what I'm doing with fairy tales. I have a list of fairy tales. We don't have to get to all of them. I actually let my kids choose the first 2 based on their preferences, and we're just going to go from there. So this is an example of a very flexible one. I have already done most of my lesson lists. Let me show you some that are kind of in between, where it's not set on certain dates, but they do need to go in a specific order. I have my lesson list that I've already done in my homeschool planner, which I will show you next video. So this is actually a good example of one that needs to go in order, and this is math. Actually, I probably should re-type out. I have a master math list that I'm kind of going down in order, which is essentially a lesson list. It goes down what order I want to teach the various concepts and lessons. And with math, I do sometimes circle back when I feel like we need to review an area. However, it does need to go in a certain order, right? You wouldn't introduce multiplication and division before you introduced addition and subtraction. So it does have that sense of order to it. This is one I had printed out for her first grade, and we're on the back now. We're basically here. So I might just reorganize a little bit, and so I have it where we're starting with second grade and can check off as I go. And the same thing with my sons. We're actually here-ish on his list that I did for last year. So I need to refresh these, but math is a really good example of lesson lists that just how I use lesson lists, in that it helps me go in the order I want, but I'm not rushing them. Like, if we need to spend more time on a particular concept or lesson, we can. We don't have to get to a certain, chapter by a certain date. So, and that's one of my favorite things about homeschooling. Let's see what else I've got in here. So I did mention fairy tales before. I've got my fairy tales. I've got my literature here. And I just separated it by read alouds, quiver. So these read alouds will be either family read alouds or during school. And I didn't specifically choose this year. So last year I had specific read alouds tied to each month based on what we were studying that month. And I have some that I'd like to go in certain places. So right now we already read The Sword in the Tree, and we're reading King Arthur as we're in, I think it's that same time period, King Arthur's mythology technically. So we're talking about just after the fall of the Western Roman Empire and what was happening all around the world at that time. So roughly around 500 AD is where we are. And so I stuck King Arthur in there, and we're going to start reading about that. I have the Shakespeare Stealer listed on here, and that we'll probably get to later in the year when we get to Shakespeare's time in the English Renaissance. And like Seas Behind Trees, I'm hoping to incorporate when we do some more of our Native American study, and so on. But I also just put in some books that we want to read. I have a bunch in the bedroom, and since my husband is kind of slogging his way through King Arthur at this point, I don't know if it's his favorite. I told him he could choose from the list what comes next, with the exception of some of these history ones that I have in certain places. But I'm going to suggest a couple to him and then let him choose, because he does tend to do the reading. So that's how I have that organized. The quiver books will all be read during school time, and I did put those in order in my term chart. So I'll get to that when I saw it there, but there I listed them. Let's see. Artists is another one I have a lesson list for. I don't know why this is a different font, but it is. And so term 1, we're doing Giotto and medieval art, and as well as a couple other things I've sprinkled in here because I just make things more complicated, guys. Don't be like that. And then term 2A is Leonardo da Vinci. And then I did list out the artists that we're going to cover in the Renaissance for the second half of term 2 and term 3. And again, I put that together in more detail in my term chart, which I will show you. Oh, and I will show you this one as well. If you've watched my history video, and I will link that here, this is my lesson list for term 1 for history. I have it split up by term. And that I have dated and by week. I've already not covered things on various weeks and ended up pushing it. And so it's already not exactly the dates, but it is helpful to me to know, again, what order I want to go in, what things generally go together. So I could keep those things together. And there's some stuff we've done that we just haven't checked off yet. So I'll need to do that. Term charts. Now I do already have drafts of them. And I did split it up. I don't know what happened with this one, but might have gotten wet. I did print them out. And what I did is each of these pages is for 6 weeks. So it's it's for half of a term. So this is the first half of term 1, and this is the second half of term 1, and so on. And I did spots for history that might go away, and I'll get to that in a minute. science, nature, literature, art, artist study, composer study, geography, U.S. And Vermont government, poetry, tea, and health. And across the top, it has the weeks and a space for notes. And so again, this is a draft because I did not get to every subject yet. And so we're going to work on some of it right now. I don't think we're going to finish it in this filming session. But let's get to work. I've put away the character books, and I pulled out a couple things that I want to use. So here I am with my term charts, both, here's the first one, physically and on the computer. And a couple things. First of all, I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to mess with the formatting, and I don't want you guys to sit through that. But I am going to eventually take out that history row because I have, my history sheet here. And while I have tied things to certain weeks, I can't fit everything here in that little box. And I am doing history every week. So I'm just going to use this for history. I know I have to do it, and take it off the term chart for right now. In future years, I might use it. It might be a little simpler. Like if we're doing, this area in history for a couple weeks and then this area. It made sense with units, honestly. I knew I was doing the unit on ancient China then and on ancient Rome for those weeks. But as I'm doing it this year, it doesn't make as much sense. So I'll probably take that part out. But moving on, I'm not going to add a lot to my first half of term 1 because we are already well into it. And I don't want to add more over the next couple weeks because I'm actually going to be super busy. So I'm going to go on to the second half, and there are a couple things I want to add here. First, for U.S. and Vermont government, I want to spend a couple weeks just looking up who our representatives are. We'll probably do 1 week where we do federal government and 1 week where we'll do the Vermont state government, and just, know who our representatives are. I know who my federal representatives are. I'm not 100% sure about my state, which is, I should get on that. But I do want to look it up with the kids, show them how to find it, and then learn about them a little bit. And then I have some books I actually want to include, and some of them I haven't bought yet. So I'm going to make a note to myself to do that. One book we have is on Elizabeth Cady Stanton and, her pushing for women to vote. And then I want to get one, and I'm not remembering it right now. And while I'm making this video, I'm going to find out what it is and link it below for you, and maybe write it because it looks fantastic and it's about a Black woman voting. So earlier I am covering the Constitution a little bit and how our government was put together, but we'll talk about that a bit. And then let's see here. I wanted to add a poetry in here, a poetry tea in. I want to sprinkle a couple in. I got this book to go with Fred's Big Feelings. It's A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the poetry of Mr. Rogers. And so, yes. Yes. So this needs its own poetry tea, I'm thinking. We'll do a kindness poetry tea and feature this. And I will see if I have any other poetry books that will go in there as well. And then I have some beautiful Native American poetry books that we don't pull out as often. So I will probably do a poetry tea on that. And then maybe later in the year when we're doing animals in science, we will do a animal themed poetry tea because we have quite a few animal books. So here's what I'm going to do. So here I'm going to put in this kindness one. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pick a week, but I am not sure. If things come up, I might have to move it based on what's happening with other things. But I'm going to put in here kindness poetry tea. Ooh. And here I'm going to put health. I do need to sprinkle them in. So I think this one's going to be the bread germ experiment. I think I mentioned it in another video, but I can't remember which one, where you get bread, like Wonder Bread or whatever, and you have everybody touch a piece and put it in a plastic bag. You have a control piece, I think, that goes directly into a baggie. And then you have one that probably with gloves. And then you have one where everybody washes their hands, touches the bread, and then that goes in. And you see how much mold and bacteria grow on each of the bags. And I don't know if there's other stuff you can put on as well. I'm going to look and see what some other people did. So we're going to do a bread bacteria /germ experiment there. Geography, I need to find my lesson list for it. So I actually, a couple years ago, did, yes, it was the year before last, when my oldest was in kindergarten, we did a physical geography. And so I have my lesson list. I just pulled it up here on the computer from that. And I might just work through this again. But this is one of those ones that I don't know if I'm going to tie. I don't think I want to tie it to a specific week. So I think I might also take that one off of the lesson, of the term chart. But I'm going to leave this open so that I remember to print it out. And we will get started on that. I also have Paddle to the Sea. But those have, it has, did I pull it out? I did pull it out. Paddle to the Sea has, it's basically each page is its own chapter, if you will, which is really short. So I think I will probably just read this like one each week and then do the other things I have planned because it's pretty short. And I'm actually thinking of using this to have my son practice narration. He's in kindergarten, so I don't currently require him to do much, but I want to get him started. And my daughter narrates for history, and I will often ask him if he wants to add anything, or if he really wants to say something, I'll let him go as well. But he's not as I haven't formally practiced with him, and so I think with this, what I'll do is probably go, not even a whole page at a time, but just a little chunk at a time, and have him narrate, so that he can get used to that and figure out what I'm expecting from him. Okay. So that's going to be like history, and I'm going to print out that lesson list and have Paddle to the Sea available and just know that that's what we're doing each week for geography. I've waited to start that. We are easing into the school year, so I purposely did not start with every subject, but we're ramping up and soon we'll have everything involved. I'm going to next move on to term 2 here, and I'm going to put another poetry T in here. And let's see, I can see where I am for animals there. I think I'm going to do the Native American one here. Let's do it here. Let's do a Native American. Actually, I'm going to do this before. It's under poetry. Native American for poetry T. And then, so I have 2 more experiments, and one is similar to the bread, but it's a little different. I got my daughter a agar bacteria growing kit because she was inspired by Zoe and Sassafras. So I think I'm going to put that next because she's really excited to do that. So I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to count that as part of health as well. I can make the argument that we're talking about bacteria relevant to health. If you're not in the United States, our elections, our federal elections, I should say, are the first Tuesday in November. And it's a presidential election every 4 years, and then there's other things that happen. There's an election every year, but the 4 years are the big ones usually, and then 2 years is also another significantly big one because everybody in the House of Representatives is up for re-election. So this year, the first Tuesday here, it's 2020 and not 2021 yet, is the 3rd. So November 3rd. And within term 2, for me, that is in week 3. So I'm just going to make a note under here. Whoop. That is the election that week. And I may move this Native American one. I'm going to move it over here because I might even just move that into the next thing. I want to have kind of an election party, and I might kind of, instead of like a poetry tea, like an election day party, even though I am not expecting to get the results that day. I think it will take, hopefully not super long, but I'm thinking at least a week or 2 because of all the mail-in ballots. So I'm aware of that, but I think it'd be fun to kind of celebrate election day with the kids. It goes under both poetry tea. Well, I'm going to put that under government section there. And I'm not going to do a poetry tea in this 6 weeks in that case. And I will do, I'm going to do the Native American one in here. So actually Thanksgiving, we're going to finish the week of Thanksgiving, it looks like here. So it doesn't have to be that week. I'm going to put a poetry tea in here. We'll do the Native American one. Native American poetry tea. I'm actually going to do it earlier because it looks like I have less in artist study on those days. So we'll sneak it in here. I have a question mark here for composer study. So I didn't mention this before, but for composers, we're doing medieval right now, overview, and it's on my term chart that I have done already. So we're doing Guido d'Arezzo, and he invented basically what we know as modern notation of music. And so that's what we're doing. And then we're going to do some on Gregorian chants and medieval instruments. So I decided not to go really in depth on a lot of medieval composers. It was just getting too complicated. So we're going to focus on those things for the first term. Second term, we're doing, wait, where's Hildegard? I don't know why. Oh, because I was on 2A instead of 2B. So the first half of term A, we're going to do Hildegard von Bingen. And then we are going to, so then I'm debating, I was going to do like an overview of Renaissance music, but I'm not really feeling that. So I think what I want to do is do other composers. That's just simpler to me. And I like exposing my kids to lots of composers. And when I get to the later time periods, we're going to have more than I can reasonably fit in. So I think what I'm going to do is take one classical composer, maybe even get a Squilt guide for them because I do love their products. It just makes it easy for me. And then I'll probably choose one that's a little bit more modern, maybe not completely modern, but that is either a Black or a person of color or Indigenous. Just so I'm getting some more diversity in this. I'm honestly leaning towards Ella Fitzgerald because, I mean, she was incredible. So I might do Ella Fitzgerald as well, but I haven't fully decided and got my resources together for that. So right now I have some notes. One of the notes I had in here is to look into Florence Price. And also the other person is Louis W. Ballard. And I'm just not sure I have the capacity right now to create the studies for people who aren't as well known, and I'd have to do a lot of research for. So I think for this year, I'm going to go ahead and do composers that there's more information on, and it's easier for me to get, I'm sure there's a picture book on Ella Fitzgerald I can get, and I know where I can get her music. So yes, that is that is my plan. Actually, you know what? Since I'm here, let's just put it on in there. I haven't done the lesson list for it and everything, but let's go ahead and here, let's put in, I don't want to put in, I'll just put classical composer to be decided. And then I think I'm just not going to do it at the end of the year to just give us a bit of a break. But I think here we're just going to do Ella. I said Ella Fitzgerald, right? I am right? Yeah. So we're just going to do that. That's what we're doing. Okay. Good progress, guys. All right. So let's keep going, though. I have another health experiment, and I'm not sure if I want to put it here or here. I think I'll put it here. Let's do, we're going to do like, I need to look up exactly how to do this, but there's an experiment where you watch something dissolve in like soda or something. And it's to teach about the importance of brushing your teeth and dental care. And so I want to do that. So I'm just going to put dental care experiment, and the specifics I will work out later. So that I'm going to put there. I do want to do a animal poetry tea still, and we're still covering animals, it looks like, up here. So let's schedule in an animal. Oh, that's not how you spell animal. Animal poetry tea. And I don't really have something else specific in mind for health right now. Yeah. We are going to be putting together a first aid kit, and I'm hoping to make a video on that, on my herbal first aid kit, over the next few weeks, over August and September. I'm not scheduling that in right now because I still need to acquire some supplies. So I'm going to wait until I acquire the supplies and then make a plan for that. And that might actually also be a weekend project. We'll see. I'm hoping to film it as I do it, though. I know at least one of you that was watching another video commented you were interested in that. And I really need to, I have Solve that I've made, but I really need to get on making some of this stuff so we have it on hand. All right, so I think that's where I'm going with my term chart right now. There is one major subject missing in here that I would like to put in, and that is Italian. And I'm still kind of wading my way through a lot of info on Italian. We are currently working on food and kitchen vocab, I guess, and phrases for Italian. And we continue to count in Italian for our calendar time. I have partially made my Italian calendar, so I need to finish that. And I think when I do, I'm going to spend some time talking with them, reviewing with them, because we've done it once before, but seasons and weather and things like that. And we'll learn phrases like today is for Italian, but this needs more work. and I don't think I'm going to include it in this video right now. So when that's done, I'm hoping to do a video or a series of videos on what we're doing for Italian. So I will show you that when that is complete. But I think these are in a good place for right now. I'm gonna have to reprint them up at some point. So I'll go look through, and I'm gonna probably wait until I finish Italian to reprint them. And this planner and the rest of all this stuff will hopefully be well organized so I can show you in the final video of this series on curriculum planning. I am sorry that I don't have it more together for you, but this is my real life. I try to be organized. My mind is very creative, and I've been learning this more and more about myself as I get older, and it jumps around quite a bit. So I do love to organize, but I'm not always as organized as I want to be. So that's where I am. I also just want to say, especially if you made it this far, thank you so much for being here. And if you are a new homeschooler and trying to put together a curriculum, you by no means need to make it this complicated. There are much simpler ways to do this, and I may make another video just talking about a very simple way to put together a curriculum. I mean, honestly, you could just buy a boxed curriculum, or you could just buy one thing for each subject, or there are things that are put together for you. So I don't want you to be intimidated or think that you have to do it this way. This is just what I'm doing for my brain and how I function. So, and it changes all the time. But whether you've been here for a while or you're new, thank you for joining me today. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. Click the thumb below to show YouTube that you've liked this video, and I will talk to you later.